Right then, so firstly, you will have noticed that the assembly was meant to be about something called Film in a Year, and now the title's changed. Do not worry, that has not gone anywhere. That assembly's been moved to Wednesday for various reasons, and you've got the great honour of listening to me again today, talking to you about use of your half term. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen, and we will go from there. So, a few notices. This will be my last assembly to you before half term. Mr. Gunn is doing an assembly later in the week, but this is my last assembly to you before half term. A reminder that work shadowing week is the first week after half term, and an outline of the expectations that if you do not have a placement, you are expected in school. You will not be doing lessons. We have things laid on for you to provide some of the skills that you would have got had you been doing a work experience placement. So we're putting on a bit of a work experience skills conference, but you will be expected in school if you have not submitted a work experience form to us. So please, if you are going on work experience and you've not submitted the form, please submit that. Otherwise, we will have to chase your attendance and maybe even come to your house if we don't hear from you to make sure that you're safe on Monday morning. So please make sure you've done that. Also, Finham Fest is coming up. That's at the end of next half term. Mrs. Sharkey is running a Battle of the Bands event. If any of you are interested in performing, either if you on your own, if you'd like to join a band with other students, or if you are part of a band already, that it has to be a band with Finham students, not one that you're in with people who don't attend the school. But if you already are in a bit of a band and you'd like to perform, that would be lovely. It can be all sorts of music. It doesn't have to be typical band music. If you play I don't know, classical music or something else, you'd be very, very welcome as well. Please, can you either let myself or Mrs. Sharkey know if you're interested in that? Because I think that's going to be a really great opportunity to perform. So, the purpose of my assembly today is to talk about using half term to prepare appropriately for your end of year exams, but balancing to make sure that you get a suitable amount of rest, you get plenty of opportunities to have fun, but that you also use the time productively when needed. So firstly, I'd like to start by saying that you've got this and that I'm really proud of you. Year 12 is a tough year. Moving from year 11 to post 16 is an incredibly difficult transition. And actually, you're nearly through year 12, and I'm so proud of you for the work that you've done already. Also on this, thank you. Your dress code was much better last week. Your wearing of lanyards was much better last week. Generally, staff fed back to me that your attitude in lessons was much better. That doesn't mean that with your lanyards were not 100%, your dress code wasn't 100%. There were still a few phones out inappropriately, but it was much better. So thank you so much. Please keep the pressure on that and make sure that you are maintaining those focuses, because for all the reasons I outlined last week, they are very important. So, using the half-term holidays productively. Now, firstly, I want to be clear. I'm not expecting you for 1 second to study for all of the half-term holidays. That would be absolutely ridiculous. It is incredibly important that you get a suitable amount of rest and that you do some fun stuff. What I'm talking about are the blocks of study during the half-term that you put in. Now, we all know that the exams are going to come around like that. We have all talked about the fact that those exams are going to have to form a significant part of the predicted grades the school gives you. Now, the school will have to give you predicted grades regardless of what you apply for, whether that's university, and we put predicted grades on UCAS, whether that's to an employer or a college because you apply for an apprenticeship, a college course, or a job. We will be asked for predicted grades. Now, the only people who we might not be asked for predicted grades for are those who have a gap year and don't apply for anything. But unless you've made that absolute decision, there is a good chance you're going to need predicted grades. And those of you going for gap years, I would tell you the number of people who change their mind is high, so it's always worth applying for something. That means we're going to have to give you predicted grades. As you know, we can't give you predicted grades if we've not seen evidence you're capable of getting that grade, and that is a hill I'm absolutely going to die on. I died on that hill last year to protect you because our predicted grades are generally fairly accurate, and that means that UCAS know our predicted grades are accurate. If I predict grades too high, if I tell UCAS you're going to get an A and you get a B, UCAS will note that down. And then next year they won't believe my predictions. So we have to be really, really fair with your predictions, and I'm not going to be able to predict you something I can't see evidence you're going to get, which means those exams are important and means you need to use the half term productively. So the most important thing is that you spend some time this week thinking about what you don't know. It is a really obvious instinct that we all do, myself included. If we've got a load of work to do, the first thing we do is the easy bit. Now, if there's a subject you get on really well with, there's a topic that you really like, the chances are you're going to revise that first. But actually, that's not the most productive thing to do. You need to be tackling the difficult topics first. Now, some people talk about this as eating your frog. If you have a to-do list, do the thing you don't want to do first, get that done, and then everything will feel easier. So spend some time this week speaking to your teachers, thinking about your specifications and identifying those topics that are ones that you really don't like, that maybe you feel scared of, you're intimidated about, that you know you just don't understand. And that is the absolute priority for next week. You don't need to cover everything next week, but if you could spend a bit of time focusing on 2 or 3 topics that are your real problem topics and come out the other end feeling really good about those, then that would have been a really good use of your study time next week. Secondly, plan out your time. It's important to interleave topics and subjects. What I mean by interleave is that you don't revise one thing for 6 hours. You might revise something for a short time, have a break, something else, have a short time, have a break, and then revisit things. There's lots of science that suggests that chopping and changing topics throughout the day will help embed things in your long-term memory. It's essential that you have regular breaks. So if you're doing a morning of study, for example, you could do 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes break, 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes break, etc., and then have a proper rest. And as I've said again, and I'm going to say throughout the assembly, you must plan some rest days. That's essential. You must do fun stuff. You must rest. I'm not saying for 1 second that you should study all the way through, but you do need some blocks of study to keep it going. I recommend that you spend some time this week planning out the whole half term. We've all been there, every single one of us has spent the whole holiday worrying about what we've got to do, not done it, and then got to the end of the holiday, not rested because we've spent the whole time worrying, but not achieved anything. I recommend you think about, for example, I'm going to study Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and Thursday morning, whatever it is that works for you, and 1 day at the weekend. And that's the amount of time I'm going to study, but then block it out, put it in your calendar on your phone or in your paper diary, whatever you use. Block it out and make sure you do not arrange to do any socializing or whatever it is during that time, and that time is your study time. And then start planning which topics are your priorities for that time so that you can get to the end of the holiday and come back to school after work experience feeling like you've really made some good progress. Now, it's really important at this stage that you spend some time practicing combining topics or looking at things synoptically. So synoptically means looking at the whole course, looking in history, for example, looking at a long time period. And JCQ did a study fairly recently saying that the biggest problem students have with getting the highest grade is managing to combine topics. They can do any topic on its own, but if they get a question that requires them to draw upon knowledge from more than one topic and combine that knowledge, they struggle with. Or managing something synoptic, by which I mean looking at a whole time period in history, a whole topic in science rather than a little subtopic, students struggle with that. There are tons of exam questions online. You will know exactly where to find them because your teachers will have shown you. I recommend that you practice that sort of exam question, combining topics, synoptic questions, if they are relevant to your subject. Now, not every subject will have these questions, but your teachers will be able to guide you. And you will all have access to exam reports. Please use those to check you've done these as well as you can. That is very important. I recommend you practice exam questions, essays, and timed answers. And I would treat this as training in the same way that you would train if you were going to do a marathon or train if you were going to enter an athletics competition or whatever it is. Physically, doing an exam period is hard. Mentally, doing an exam period is hard. I don't know about you, but I don't write with a pen for several hours on the go. You might have more than one exam in a day. If you do essay-based subjects, or even if you do maths and the sciences, you will still be writing with a pen for several hours in 1 day. Most of you, I know a few of you use a laptop for various reasons, but the majority of you do your exams with a pen. If you have not practiced that since you did your GCSEs, then your first hurdle is going to be physically managing all that writing. So if you are doing some study blocks, as part of that, I really recommend that you practice some answers. The other thing you need to train your brain to do is to manage the time. All of us can write a great answer if we know that we've got unlimited time to do it. No pressure, no stress, no panic. But there's a real special type of panic that we can all get into when we know we've got 20 minutes and our brain freezes. And so it's really important to practice that as part of your block. Work out how long you should have for an answer, whether that be a long answer question at the end of a maths paper or whether that be a timed essay. Set a timer on your phone or whatever. Put your phone at the other end of the room and just crack on and do it and see how that goes. Because if you can train your brain to cope with that time pressure, that will become less stressful. And then in the exam, you're less likely to panic. Again, think of this as training. Build it in every week, and then it won't be a problem when you get to that exam period at the end of term. Now, this one is so important, and every year students tell me they get this wrong. Keep a sensible routine. We have all been there during the school holidays when our routine just changes. We go to bed at 4, we wake up at 2, and our body clock just changes. Now, when you've got 6 weeks over the summer holiday, that's one thing, but this is a week. And then you've got to go and do your work experience, which is an opportunity that you need to use productively. And then you've only got a few weeks until your exams. And so those few weeks in school will be absolutely essential to prepare you for those exams. Now is not the time. Stick to your routine. If you now go to bed at 10 p.m. and you get up at 7, stick with that. Maybe stay in bed till 8 o'clock or whatever, but please just stick to that sensible bedtime. You have got the rest of your life to go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning if you want. You've got the rest of your life to adjust your sleep cycle. But trust me, having to adjust your sleep cycle to come back to school in a couple of weeks' time after your work experience, or a week's time, depending on the timing of your work experience, will be rubbish. And I really recommend you reflect on this. I'm not saying don't go out in the evening. Of course, go out in the evening. But go out in the evening until 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Don't go out in the evening until the morning. Right then. This, I think, is the biggest hill to die on in terms of studying. Put your mobile phone away. Get rid of tabs which you don't need. We all know that if your phone is right here in front of you when you're studying, as soon as a notification pops up, you will look at that and you will not get focused concentration. If you are willing, I recommend you delete social media, not forever, but for the time running up to the exams. It will change your grades. And if not, put your phone somewhere else. I told you in my previous assembly, I think, about a box you can buy that you can seal for an amount of time. So if you're doing an answer that's going to take you 20 minutes, you can literally put your phone in this box, it will lock, and then the box will open after 20 minutes. Put a blocker on any non-schoolwork tabs on your laptop, whatever it is you need. But just put distractions away. This is so important. I don't think you need to listen to music, most of you. In fact, I think music probably disturbs you more than you think it does. And I think that can be an excuse for distraction. And we all know this, and yet we all do it. If there's one thing you're going to prioritise over half term, please make sure that it's when you're studying that you do not get distracted by your mobile phone or media. And finally, be selfish. Now is the time to focus on you. People will say to you, would you like to go for a walk? Would you like to go for dinner? Should we have lunch? Should we go for a picnic in the park? Whatever it is. And you've got the rest of your life to do that. I promise you that your friendships are not going to be affected by 1 week of you saying, no, actually, I really want to focus on my study. You've got a lovely long summer holiday, 6 weeks. And yes, you'll have some things to do to prep for year 13, but a lot of that time you will be able to do whatever you want, go on amazing holidays, see your friends, see your family. Now is the time to really focus on you. I recommend that you revise. I've said on the dinner table, what I mean by that is if you revise and your parents or your carers or your siblings or whatever are nearby, unless they're going to distract you, that will give you some accountability. We have all spent hours revising in our rooms and actually done no studying. And everyone thinks we've revised. I think we can probably even trick ourselves into thinking we've revised because our revision guide's open. But we all know we spent 99% of the time on our phone. And anyone who tells me they've never done that is not telling the truth. I would say that revising somewhere, maybe in a library, wherever it is, but revising somewhere that gives you some accountability could be really sensible. And lastly, well-being is the most important. By that, I mean that actually preparing properly for your exams is the best thing I can do for your well-being. If we get to 1 week before the exams and you've done no studying, your well-being is not going to be in a good place. You're going to be panicky, you're going to be stressed. And yes, I will listen to you. Yes, I will support you. But actually, at that point, there's not a great deal I can do. At this point, getting this right is the best thing that you can do for your well-being. you can plan your rest, you can plan your fun stuff, you can plan your non-negotiable activities. For me, I do one exercise class every week. That is a non-negotiable for me. And when I was thinking about having a baby, me and my husband talked about it, and I said, when we have a baby, doing this one exercise class as soon as I'm well enough is a non-negotiable for me. Put those things in, and you've got time that you can put loads of that in and still have plenty of time for your revision, and that will look after your well-being. Make sure it's planned out. And as I said, the best thing for your well-being is to be prepared. Spend this week planning it all out properly. Now, I hope that all made sense. I hope it didn't come across naggy. The reason that I've said all that to you is because I'm really, really passionate about doing the best for you and for your well-being. And I promise the best thing for your well-being is making sure that you use this half term productively to have a lovely time, do loads of fun stuff, get lots of rest, and plan in some productive study sessions as well, so you can come back feeling one step more confident about your exams. Because I promise you, I have been working at Finnan Park School for 12 years now. I've been working in education for 16. And I promise you that every year, students who have planned their exams, built in their rest, not had a panic at the last minute, have had better well-being run up to the exams than those who haven't. And so please listen to me, please take me seriously, and I hope that's helpful. Right then, I'm going to finish there. I know we're about 5 minutes early. Mentors, can you use the last 5 minutes to do a lanyard check and a dress code check? And students, you're more than welcome to use the last 5 minutes to start thinking and reflecting on how you're going to use your half term productively. Thank you so much. Have a lovely week. Bye bye.